Hi, my name is Gabrielle Burton. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist intern,
And I'm Jasette Wamala, licensed marriage and family therapist.
and we are your hosts of the Wealthiness of Healthiness show. Every week, we come to you with content to increase your mental and emotional journey.
Today, as the last video in this series, we are going to talk about mental and emotional abuse. We've been discussing domestic violence in honor of National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So today we'll talk specifically more about mental and emotional abuse because sometimes violence isn't actually present in a relationship, but power and control issues are. And mental and emotional abuse are just as harmful and detrimental to one's well-being as physical abuse. And there's some things to be able to look out for, like if you know someone that seems to be withdrawing and distancing themselves from friends and family, if you notice that their personality is changing at all, any symptoms of anxiety or depression, those might be signs that they are dealing with some mental or emotional abuse. And we've got some tips to kind of help you to be able to see that and manage it yourself if you're dealing with it.
Absolutely. What Gisette was just talking about in regards to the mental and emotional abuse, oftentimes that can leave lingering effects longer than in a physical bruise, because that will go away, but the lingering effects that happens from mental and emotional abuse can last for years. So tip number one is to realize that it can be really, really hard to identify covert control. Overt is something that is like super obvious. It's like someone that maybe calls someone a name, calls them out of their name in front of others. That's like overt, like, wow, that was super disrespectful and rude. But covert is really, really subtle, and it could be something that really only affects the other person, like the partner, but other people may not see it as an issue. For example, maybe it looks like a friend in their relationship and they go out to dinner and the partner always orders for them, or the partner goes over and cuts their food and gives them a certain portion, and they tend to take more of their food. That may not seem like anything to you, like, oh, they're really caring for them, but that could definitely be something that's very covert control. Or maybe it's something like they'll say to the partner, are you sure you want to eat that? And like to other people, maybe it seems like, oh, it's very it's very kind, it's very considerate, they just started the keto diet, and so maybe they're not sure. But that could be very much covert control that could offend, take a toll on that person in the relationship.
Yeah, I think that those are really significant, and you mentioning that a bruise will go away and the pain goes away. Absolutely. As well. But if you've ever thought to yourself of a time that you got really hurt, you can't think and feel that pain again as if it's new. But you can hear a sad song, or you can think about a time where you had an emotional experience, and the emotion you can actually feel all over again.
Yes.
And so oftentimes someone's self-esteem and their self-worth is really affected in these situations, because self-esteem is your confidence in your capability or in yourself to do things or be, and your self-worth obviously being how much you value yourself and how much you believe other people value you. And so while you're in this type of relationship, someone is systematically manipulating a situation to break down your self-confidence and self-worth. And even once a person leaves an abusive relationship, the script that was on the outside then becomes internalized. And so even though you may not be with this person, and because it's so it's a cycle, there's sometimes a history of this type of theme of a script or something like that. And so it could be layer upon layer of self-tape that's saying, oh, well, you're not worthy, you're not valuable, no one's gonna love you because of this and that, if it's because of how you look or your intelligence or whatever the case may be. And so a lot of times self-esteem and self-worth takes such a huge hit, and it has to be something that's rebuilt. It's not something that happens overnight. They're actually verbs. You have to do self-esteem and self-confidence, and it takes time to be able to rebuild that, but it's possible.
Absolutely. And tip number 3 is signs of being mentally or emotionally abused is that there's trouble with trusting yourself or others. Oftentimes when being in a relationship like this, where you're constantly being, your self-esteem and your self-worth is being torn down, you have a hard time thinking like, well, gosh, do I know what's good for me? should I order that thing? You know, my partner always ordered food for me, so maybe I should just wait because they're smarter than me or they know better. Or maybe there was always comments about the way you did your hair or the outfits that you wore. And so then when you go to pick clothes, when you're out of that relationship, you go to pick clothes and you're just like, gosh, am I showing too much skin? I feel like I'm too revealing. I might be trying to draw attention that I don't want. And so then that can really start to, you know, take a toll on trusting your ability to make long-term choices. And what would be hard then is not having that sense of self or sense of autonomy is going to then potentially attract other people that have abusive relationships into your life because you're very vulnerable in that place. And so definitely having trouble trusting yourself and others would be a sign of mental and emotional abuse.
Yeah, I think, you know, along the lines with that, kind of being able to say, and you might need someone outside of you to say it, but like, it's not your fault, you know? It's not your fault that you feel the way that you do. It wasn't something that you did to yourself. There was someone else involved in that. It's not your fault if you stayed for however long that you stayed, right? It's not your fault if you choose to continue to stay, right? Even though you may feel like you know better or should do different. I think taking off any extra guilt or shame, like it's already hard enough. So taking off anything additional can be really, you know, alleviating some of the pressure that's already there. It's not your fault, and it's not forever. So you can heal from this with the right system in place of support, whether that's a therapist, whether that's, you know, church or religion or spiritual beliefs, whether that's with your friends and family. There's so many different avenues and so many different layers of support that you can kind of build into your life to help you to heal over time. And for everyone, it looks different. And so that's why it's difficult, because there's no cookie cutter version to say, hey.
So we always want to leave you guys with a challenge for you to take. And so the first challenge we want to leave you with is to identify a healthy relationship that you have, and then ask yourself, how do you know it's healthy? Because, you know, a lot of times our definitions come from our upbringings and our backgrounds and things like that. So if you were used to having abuse in your childhood, then, you know, a healthy relationship may look different to you than someone else who maybe hasn't experienced that. So just identify what a healthy relationship looks like to you, and then start questioning if that's really what you want your relationships to look like.
Yeah. Challenge number 2 is to take inventory and reevaluate what your myths around emotional and mental abuse might be. Some might be, you know, men can't experience mental or emotional abuse, or because it's not physical, it's okay. And so what myths or rules or things that you grew up with can be holding you back, so that you can reevaluate those and rework your life to better fit the way that you want to be living.
I love that. Well, we hope this was a helpful series for you. We know talking about domestic violence is not the lightest or the easiest conversation, but it's super important. And so if you like the content that we've been sharing, we really encourage you to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Feel free to share this video to loved ones, and we'll see you in the next video.